The abandonment. The dying light of Velkari's three moons cast long shadows across the crystalline forests as plasma fire rained from the sky. Ambassador Kestra stood in what remained of the High Council chambers, her iridescent wings trembling, not from fear but from exhaustion. For 6 months the Dominion Empire had systematically destroyed everything her people had built over 10,000 years of peaceful existence. Through the shattered dome above, she could see the Dominion Armada, hanging in space like metallic vultures. 400 ships of war, each one capable of turning continents to glass. The Velkari had never needed warships. They were healers, philosophers, and dream weavers who could share memories across star systems. Their greatest achievement wasn't conquest but the creation of the empathy networks that had brought peace to dozens of worlds. Now those same networks carried only screams. Kestra's aide, young Thren, rushed into the chamber with his feathers dulled by stress and lack of sleep. The outer shields have fallen completely. Ground forces are advancing through the crystal forests. They're using incendiary weapons to burn everything as they advance. His voice cracked on the last word. The crystal forests were more than beautiful landmarks. They were living libraries, each tree containing thousands of years of Velkari history and culture encoded in their molecular structure. Have we received any response from the Galactic Council? Kestra asked, though hope had become a stranger to her in recent weeks. She had sent message after message, each more desperate than the last, to every major power in the known galaxy. The Velkari had been members of the Galactic Council for 3 millennia. Surely that counted for something. Thren's silence spoke volumes before his words confirmed what she already knew. The Zalathi Federation expressed their deepest sympathies but cited their non-aggression pact with the Dominion. The Quellian Confederacy offered to accept refugees after the conflict concludes. The Trade Consortium has frozen all Velkari assets, pending the outcome of territorial disputes. Kestra felt something break inside her chest. Not her heart, that had shattered weeks ago when she watched the Dominion destroy the memory spires where her ancestors' consciousness resided. This was deeper, the breaking of faith itself. For generations, the Velkari had contributed their healing technologies freely to the galaxy. They had mediated conflicts, shared their empathic abilities to help other species understand each other better, and never asked for anything in return except friendship. What about the newer members? Kestra pressed, grasping for any strand of hope. The Arcturians? The Centauri Alliance? Thren shook his head slowly. All have declined involvement. They say the Dominion's claim to our system is based on ancient territorial maps that predate our membership in the Council. Several members have already recognized the legitimacy of those claims. The floor shuddered as another bombardment struck nearby. Through the empathy network, Kestra could feel the terror of millions of her people huddled in underground shelters. Children who had never known violence now learned its bitter taste. Artists who had spent lifetimes creating beauty watched their works turn to ash. The worst part wasn't the fear or the pain. It was the overwhelming sense of betrayal. Kestra moved to the communication console, her taloned fingers dancing across the holographic interface. If the galaxy wanted to abandon them, she would at least ensure their betrayal was recorded for history. She opened all channels, broadcasting on every frequency the Velkari knew, even the ancient ones that predated faster-than-light communication. This is Ambassador Kestra of the Velkari Republic, speaking from our homeworld as it burns. We who have healed your sick, who have shared our empathy to bring understanding between your species, who have asked for nothing but peace in return. Now face extinction. We called for help. We begged for intervention. The galaxy has chosen silence. Her voice grew stronger, fueled by righteous anger. When the Dominion comes for your worlds, and they will come, remember that you stood by and watched as they perfected their methods on us. Remember the Velkari, not as victims, but as the moment the Galactic Council revealed its true nature. We die with our principles intact. Can you say the same? The message pulsed outward through space, quantum relays catching it and spreading it to every corner of known space. In the depths of the void aboard ships and stations, beings of 100 different species would hear her words. Most would feel a moment of discomfort before returning to their lives. But on the edge of the system, hidden in the sensor shadow of a rogue asteroid, someone was listening who would not turn away. Captain Marcus Chen of the Earthship Brilliance had been monitoring the situation for weeks. His orders from Earth Command were clear. Observe only. Do not intervene. Humanity was too new to the galactic stage, their fleet too small to challenge established powers like the Dominion. Earth had only achieved faster-than-light travel 15 years ago. They were babies in a universe of giants. But Marcus had not become one of humanity's youngest captains by following orders blindly. He stood on the bridge of the Resilience, surrounded by his crew of misfits and rebels who had volunteered for this deep space reconnaissance mission. They had all heard Ambassador Kestra's message. They had all felt the weight of her words. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, his tactical officer, broke the silence first. Captain, I'm reading massive life sign readings in the shelters beneath the Velkari capital. Millions of civilians, mostly children and elderly. The Dominion ground forces will reach them within 6 hours at their current pace. Her voice was steady, but Marcus could see her hands clenched into fists at her station. Commander Yuki Tanaka, Marcus's second-in-command, pulled up the tactical display. Sir, the Dominion fleet is in standard bombardment formation. They're so confident they haven't even posted proper perimeter guards. Their fighters are all docked. They think they've already won. There was something dangerous in her tone, the sound of a predator recognizing weakness in prey. Marcus turned to his chief engineer, James Mitchell, a man who had turned down a comfortable position on Earth to see the stars. Jimmy, if we were to engage, hypothetically speaking, what are our chances? Mitchell's scarred face split into a grin that would have terrified anyone who didn't know him. Against 400 ships? In a straight fight, 0, but whoever said humans fight straight? The bridge fell silent as Marcus weighed his options. Earth Command would court-martial him if he survived. Humanity might face retaliation from the Dominion, but he thought about Ambassador Kestra's words, about children cowering in shelters, about a peaceful species being erased while the galaxy watched. He thought about what made humans different from the cold, calculating powers that ruled the stars. Humans were young to space, yes, but they were old in war. They had learned its bitter lessons on their own world, had nearly destroyed themselves before finding unity. They knew what it meant to stand alone against overwhelming odds. They knew what it meant to fight not because you could win, but because it was right. Navigation. Send an encrypted burst to all Earthships within range. Use the old military frequencies from the Mars Rebellion, the ones that aren't supposed to exist. Sarah's eyes widened in understanding. Those frequencies connected Earth's Black Ops fleet, ships that officially didn't exist, crewed by soldiers who had already died on paper. Message sent, Captain. The navigation officer reported. Response incoming. Marcus smiled as the tactical display updated. 12 ships appeared from various hiding spots throughout nearby systems. The Defiance, the Perseverance, the Indomitable, and 9 others. 13 human ships total against 400. The odds were impossibly bad, but humans had faced worse odds before. At Thermopylae, at Orcs Drift, at the Battle of Britain, Marcus opened a channel to his small fleet. This is Captain Chen. You've all heard the Velkari's call for help. You've all seen what the Dominion is doing. Earth Command has ordered us to observe only. But I cannot watch another genocide while the galaxy does nothing. I'm going in. Any captain who wishes to follow, I'll be proud to fight beside you. Any who wish to leave, I'll understand and hold no grudge. One by one, 12 affirmative responses came back. No speeches, no grand declarations. Just simple acknowledgments from men and women who had decided that some things were worth more than survival. Marcus felt pride swell in his chest. This was humanity at its finest. Not the conquerors that other species feared they might become, but protectors who would stand in the dark against monsters. Communications. Open a tight beam transmission to the Velkari leadership. Let them know they are not alone. Tell them that Earth stands with them. Tell them that help is coming. He turned to address his bridge crew, seeing his own determination reflected in their faces. All stations battle ready. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when you corner humans' friends. We're going to remind them why Earth's children survived everything the universe threw at them. The Resilience's engines hummed to life, propelling the ship out from its hiding spot. Around it, 12 other human vessels emerged from the darkness like wolves breaking cover. They were outnumbered 30-1. They were technologically inferior. They were violating direct orders and potentially dooming Earth to retaliation. None of that mattered. What mattered was that innocent beings were dying while others watched. What mattered was that humanity remembered what it meant to be heroes. Thunder's arrival. The Dominion Fleet Commander Zerath had conquered 17 systems in his illustrious career. He had broken the warrior culture of the savage moons, had crushed the religious zealots of the Burning Throne, had brought entire civilizations to their knees. The Velkari would be his easiest victory yet. They were pacifists, healers who had never fired a weapon in anger. It was almost disappointing how simple this genocide would be. From his command throne aboard the dreadnought Extinction's Edge, Zerath watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The Velkari capital was in ruins, their shields had failed, and ground forces were methodically eliminating any resistance. In a few hours, this world would be cleansed and ready for Dominion colonization. The crystal forests would make excellent fuel once properly processed, and the Velkari's empathic technology could be weaponized for interrogation purposes. His lieutenant approached with a datapad, his scaled face showing confusion. "Commander, we're detecting unusual energy signatures at the system's edge. 13 ships just appeared from nowhere. The configuration doesn't match any known vessel designs in our database." Zerath waved a dismissive claw. "Probably scavengers looking to pick through the wreckage after we're done. The galaxy was full of such parasites. Send a wing of fighters to chase them off." But the lieutenant hesitated, something that would normally earn him severe punishment. "Sir, they're broadcasting identification codes they claim to be from Earth. The humans." Zerath's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of amusement among his species. The humans? Those primitive mammals who just discovered faster than light travel? How entertaining, let them come closer. It will be educational for them to witness what real power looks like. This would prove to be the worst decision of Zerath's career, though he would not live long enough to fully appreciate his mistake. As the 13 human ships approached, they did something no species had ever attempted against a Dominion fleet. They didn't form battle lines. They didn't adopt defensive positions. They scattered, each ship taking wildly different vectors that made no tactical sense. Aboard the Resilience, Marcus Chen stood with perfect calm as his ship accelerated beyond what should have been possible for its mass. Human ships were different from the standardized designs the galaxy used. Each one was unique, built by crews who would live or die by their vessel's performance. They were smaller than most warships, but they were fast. More importantly, they were unpredictable. "Sarah, target their fighter bays. Jimmy rigged our missiles with those special packages. Let's see how the Dominion likes fighting blind." The Resilience launched a spread of missiles that looked pathetically small compared to the massive plasma cannons the Dominion favored. But as they impacted the Dreadnought's fighter bays, they didn't explode. Instead, they released clouds of microscopic drones that infiltrated the Dominion systems, corrupting targeting data and causing automated systems to malfunction. This was humanity's first advantage. While other species had perfected energy weapons and shields, humans had continued, developing kinetic weapons and cyber warfare. The galaxy had dismissed these as primitive technologies, not realizing that sometimes the old ways were effective precisely because they were unexpected. The Dominion fighters that launched found their navigation systems failing, their weapons refusing to lock onto targets. Some collided with each other in the confusion. Others flew off into empty space, their pilots unable to regain control. The mighty Dominion fleet, so used to enemies who fought according to predictable doctrines, found themselves facing chaos incarnate. Captain Lisa Park of the Defiance executed a maneuver that should have torn her ship apart. Using modified inertial dampeners, she pulled a turn that brought her ship within knife-fighting range of a Dominion cruiser 3 times her size. Her crew launched boarding pods not at the cruiser's hull but at its sensor arrays and weapon ports. Marines in powered armor designed for asteroid mining used industrial tools to tear apart weapon systems from the outside. The Dominion had never faced enemies who would willingly leave their ships to fight in the void. Space combat was supposed to be clean, distant, managed by computers and energy weapons. But humans had learned warfare in mud and blood. They brought that savage intimacy to the stars. The cruiser found itself blind and defanged, helpless as the Defiance poured railgun fire into its engines. Commander Tanaka coordinated the assault from the Resilience, her mind processing battlefield data at a rate that would have impressed even the artificial intelligences. Perseverance and Indomitable execute Crazy Ivan maneuver on mark. Thunder and Lightning, you're on torpedo run duty. Remember, we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to cause so much chaos they don't know which way is up. The two ships performed a maneuver straight out of Earth's ancient naval warfare, crossing paths at high speed while firing everything they had. The Dominion ships, programmed to expect standard attack patterns, couldn't process enemies who seemed to be everywhere at once. Their formation, so perfect for bombarding a helpless planet, became a liability as ships risked friendly fire trying to target the darting human vessels. But it was Captain Andrei Volkov of the ship Courage who delivered the psychological blow that would turn the battle. His ship, the smallest in the human fleet, made a direct run at the extinction's edge itself. Every tactical computer in the Dominion fleet calculated that this was suicide. A single ship charging a dreadnought was madness, which is exactly why it worked. Volkov's ship was carrying something special. In its hold was every nuclear warhead Earth had officially decommissioned, weapons that violated 17 different galactic treaties, weapons that civilized species had banned millennia ago. But humans weren't civilized by galactic standards. They were survivors, and survivors used whatever tools were necessary. All ships, this is Volkov. Remember my name. Tell Earth I kept my promise. Before anyone could respond, the Courage accelerated to ramming speed. The Dominion's shields, designed to stop energy weapons, were less effective against pure kinetic force. The human ship punched through like a bullet through paper, embedding itself in the dreadnought's hull. 3 seconds later, 50 nuclear warheads detonated simultaneously. The explosion was visible from the Valkyrie homeworld surface. The extinction's edge, pride of the Dominion fleet, ceased to exist. More importantly, Commander Zerath ceased to exist. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. The Dominion had not lost a dreadnought in 3 centuries. They had never faced an enemy willing to trade ship for ship, life for life. Marcus seized the moment of confusion. All ships, pattern Omega. Make them think we have 100 more vessels waiting to do the same thing. The remaining human ships began broadcasting false signals, creating sensor ghosts that made it appear as if massive reinforcements were arriving. They scattered debris that mimicked ship signatures, launched drones that produced energy readings consistent with weapons charging. The Dominion fleet, already rattled by the loss of their commander and flagship, began to fracture. Some captains ordered retreats. Others pressed the attack. Without Zerath's iron control, centuries of interspecies rivalries within the Dominion military surfaced. Ships began positioning defensively against each other as much as against the humans. On the surface of Valkyrie, Ambassador Kestra watched in stunned disbelief as the orbital bombardment ceased. Through the empathy network, she could feel something she hadn't experienced from the Dominion forces before. Fear. They were afraid. These conquerors who had destroyed worlds were afraid of 13 small ships crewed by a species barely out of their home system. The human ships pressed their advantage, with ruthless efficiency. They targeted communication arrays to prevent coordination. They hit engine systems to create obstacles in space. They used the Dominion's own debris as weapons, calculating trajectories that would send wreckage into other ships. It wasn't honorable combat by galactic standards. It was the dirty, brutal, efficient warfare that humans had perfected over thousands of years. 8 hours into the battle, the impossible had happened. The Dominion fleet was in full retreat. They had lost 40 ships to humanity's 3, but, more importantly, they had lost the will to fight. The remaining vessels jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind a debris field that would serve as a warning to others. The Velkari were under humanity's protection now. Marcus opened a channel to the planet below, his voice carrying across the Velkari communication networks. Ambassador Kestra, this is Captain Marcus Chen of Earth. The Dominion has been driven from your system. We've established a defensive perimeter and called for additional Earthships to maintain security. You are safe now. Kestra's response came through broken by emotion, not the artificial translation of different species trying to communicate, but raw empathic connection that transcended language. The Velkari could feel the determination in the human minds, the fierce protectiveness, the willingness to sacrifice everything for beings they had never met. But why? Why did you come when no one else would? Marcus thought about the question, about how to explain humanity to a species that had never known war until today. We came because we know what it's like to be alone. We know what it's like to face extinction. We know what it's like when everyone else looks away. But mostly, we came because it was the right thing to do. Because that's what humans do. We stand up to bullies, even when the odds are impossible. Especially when the odds are impossible. The news of the Battle of Velkari spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The Galactic Council called emergency sessions. The Dominion demanded sanctions against Earth. The major powers expressed outrage that humans had violated non-interference treaties. But something else spread too. On 100 worlds, oppressed species whispered about the humans who had stood against the Dominion and won. Rebels and freedom fighters took heart that someone, finally, had shown the giants could bleed. Earth's response to the galactic outcry was delivered by Admiral Jennifer Morrison at the next council meeting. She stood before representatives of 100 worlds, her uniform bearing the scars of battles fought, her eyes holding no apology. You condemn us for saving lives. You threaten us with sanctions for stopping a genocide. You speak of laws and treaties while children burned. Very well, sanction us, condemn us, but know this. Humanity will not stand by while innocents suffer. We will not be silent when others cry for help. And we will not apologize for doing what you should have done. She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. The Dominion thought 13 ships were all we could spare. They were wrong. Earth's full fleet now patrols Velkari space. Any aggression against them will be considered an act of war against humanity. And I promise you, you do not want to learn what total war means to a species that survived itself. The council chamber fell silent. The major powers had expected Earth to apologize, to seek forgiveness for disrupting the established order. Instead, humanity had drawn a line in the sand and dared anyone to cross it. The message was clear. The age of standing by while the strong consumed the weak was over. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as conquerors, but as protectors. In Wham, the weeks that followed, something unprecedented happened. 7 other minor species formally requested Earth's protection. The Zalathi Federation suddenly discovered a legal technicality that invalidated the Dominion's territorial claims. The Trade Consortium unfroze Velkari assets and offered favorable reconstruction loans. It seemed that humanity's thunderous arrival had reminded the galaxy of something it had forgotten. Sometimes doing the right thing was more important than doing the safe thing. Ambassador Kestra stood in the rebuilt council chambers 6 months later, addressing the assembly. Her wings had regained their iridescent shine, and her voice carried new strength. The galaxy asks why we have chosen to formalize our alliance with Earth. The answer is simple. When we called for help, when we begged for salvation, the established powers offered us platitudes and politics. Earth offered us their lives. They showed us that courage is not the absence of fear, but action in spite of it. She spread her wings, wide, a gesture of absolute trust among her people. Humanity calls it standing up for what's right. We call it the Thunder Protocol, named for the sound their ships made as they broke the silence of our abandonment. Let the galaxy know that the Velkari stand with Earth, and let any who would prey upon the weak know that thunder follows the lightning, and humanity's thunder strikes without warning. The transformation of the galactic order had begun with 13 ships, and a captain who chose conscience over orders. It would continue as more species realized that humanity's strength lay not in their technology or numbers, but in their willingness to fight for others. The galaxy had expected Earth's children to be just another minor species to be exploited or ignored. Instead, they had become the guardians the galaxy never knew it needed. Years later, when historians recorded the Battle of Valkyrie, they would note the tactical brilliance, the unconventional strategies, and the shocking defeat of a superior force. But those who were there, who felt the empathy networks that day, would remember something else. They would remember the moment when 13 small ships faced 400 and declared that some things were worth dying for. They would remember when humanity struck like thunder and changed the galaxy forever.